introduce yourself, tell the nice people a little bit about you and kind of who you are and what you do and why we're having this conversation.
Yeah, so I'm Charley Benns. I'm talent resourcing executive at Kew Green Hotels. So I obviously support the kind of recruitment side, kind of getting people into our business, but also do a lot of outreach in different projects for just supporting people in making the decision to get into hospitality, kind of showing why it's such an amazing industry to work for, and actually why it's so different in terms of loving you as an individual. I think is probably the reason I love hospitality so much.
Nice.
Yeah, because you can have blue hair or an awesome hat and beard and you're still, more than welcome.
It's the joy of this thing, isn't it? Because personal branding, you're a bit of a branding expert as well. You do a lot of good work with done a lot of good work with the team at Hire around branding on that, which is very, very cool, I have to say. The branding on that is absolutely spot on. So I feel confident to say that you're going to have a lot to say on the idea of branding. So when we think about it, when you think about branding, the idea of a personal brand, what does that mean to you? And how would you go about kind of creating one?
So a personal brand to me is exactly like, what would you want? So I've done some training. I went into a prison to do this, and I went into it was a group of kind of young people at risk, and did like young women at risk, and a bit of a kind of conversation with them about brand identity, personal identity, personal brand. And it's thinking about how you think people would describe you. So the exercise I did with them was, in 3 words, how do you think people, your family and your friends, would describe you? Then what are the 3 words you actually would like them to describe you as? Nice. And how are we going to get there? So it's, it's really important now, if you think about your social media and how kind of open that is and how part of everything, that's our whole day. I don't know anyone that doesn't, even my mum scrolls through every day. So part of your identity is absolutely you online now. And there's no way of getting around that. I think initially it was like, oh, people might check your Facebook or whatever, but now whatever you put there is just open to the world. Mm-hmm. And so you have to just always be thinking, it's so easy to hide behind the screen, isn't it? But you have to always be thinking kind of, is this supporting what I want to be seen as? And that you don't have to let anyone else determine what those 3 words are. So you don't have to choose 3 words because of anyone. You get to say, actually, for me, at one point I was probably trying to be corporate. I was probably trying to be professional. And maybe that was one of the words that I wanted to strive towards, because I thought I had to, because I was in a much more corporate kind of environment or whatever. But I made the decision to embrace who I am and be true to myself in that way. But I hate this phrase, but being the best version of yourself. But it is literally that. It's kind of understanding, professionally, I want to be seen as this and this. So for me, I want to be a little bit, I'm going to be outspoken, I'm going to be radical, and I'm going to stand for what I value. And I want to be respected for that, instead of just going off on social media. I want to actually take a step back and have that as an element of me that's kind of respected, as opposed to, I don't know, as opposed to could be detrimental, I guess.
Absolutely.
That's quite important. And I think as well, personal brand really helps once you identify what it is you want. And I really stress that, what you want your personal brand to be, not what everyone else wants your personal brand to be, but what you really want it. And once you're kind of loyal to that and really get that, that's going to help you in your career and understanding the kind of places you want to work. So a big thing for me when interviewing anywhere or looking for a job or whatever is to look at company values, for example. And I once applied for a job purely because one of their values was empowering people. And I was like, man, I get on board with that. Yes, I'm going to apply there, because do you know what I mean? It just kind of syncs up with who I am, who I want to be. And so that's going to help me decide which place to go for and which not to. Because you spend obviously at the minute we're at home all the time, but we're still with those people representing that company. And you spend more time with those people, as everyone says, than you do with the people that you live with or whatever. Again, not really at the minute, but it's really important that the values of where you work line up with the values of who you are.
So you would say, I guess, to flip that, a potential employer is going to be looking at you and everything that you do on social media. And as you say, most people live their lives out now on social media. Everything that we put out there, it is being looked at, it's being observed. So you're kind of thinking about that idea. You looked at a business and thought, right, those values made sense to me. Do you think brands are potentially looking at you on social media and thinking, right, okay, are you in alignment with our visions and values?
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't want to, I almost hate having this conversation because I don't, as in about like social media, because I don't want to be like, be careful what you put out there, and I don't want it to come across in that like lectury way. Yep. Because I remember, because I'm gobby and I'm opinionated, and so what goes on social media, lots of people have said to me before, oh, be careful that you put those kind of opinions on social media. But I am careful in that I'm not ashamed or worried about anyone seeing that. And actually, if anybody, if I put something particularly opinionated out there, it's something that I fundamentally believe, and I am happy that it's being shared. So I guess it's more being mindful that we can kind of react to stuff emotively, but you will be, for want of a better word, stalked. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, any of those things. It's one of the first things as recruiters. I don't know if we're still ashamed to say it or not, but I'll admit it. It's one of the first things we do is just kind of have a look, especially now if we're not going to be able to meet people and we want to know you a bit more. It's not always to be like, to catch you out in no way. Sometimes it's, okay, let's see what this person's like. Is there anything we can find that they might have in common with the team? So, you might post about rugby, and actually I'm really into rugby, so I'm like, great, that's a great conversation starter for me. But it does mean that, what goes hand in hand with that is all your other opinions or emotive, whatever, that you might be putting out there. That
it's one of the tools that's available to people now as recruiters, isn't it? So a good recruiter will use all of the tools that is available to them. Have you got any hints and tips for how we could go about creating a great online profile? Where should I be aiming for? What should I be looking to do to present this picture of me that I'm the person that you should hire?
So I think it's about. So I always use the rule of 3, just because I don't know if my brain can't hold anymore. But it's just really I'm figuring out who you are and who you want to be, because who you want to be seen as isn't somebody different. It's just it's who maybe you feel that you are or can be, but sometimes you might struggle to get there or whatever, but that's what you're striving to do. So then just you need to be able to have the freedom to post about whatever it is you post on social media about, whether it's political or whether it's you're just your cat. If you're me, it's all I'm posting about at the minute. Pictures of this and that, but just I think every time being mindful, if you have those 3 words in your head, being kind of mindful that you're always meeting that, and in terms of what you share as well. So if we're moving away from kind of Facebook and Instagram to LinkedIn, then actually that's more of a professional networking platform. And so in terms of your profile there, kind of really sharing stuff that you find genuinely interesting, but kind of those values that you represent, kind of having a look for genuinely, like I say, interesting articles or videos or whatever, and kind of sharing and interacting with people and using that platform to your advantage, using that platform to the advantage of all the things that you care about. Kind of if you're gifted the ability to share knowledge, then actually maybe use that for more than just cat pictures. Fine, I will.
I mean, there is a place for cat pictures always.
Absolutely.
Always.
My entire phone.
I just
Every photo I've ever
I
taken.
just can't have that energy in my life. I'll be honest.
Can't deal with it.
So I've been on so many of these little boxes and little calls where you see animals coming through there, and even the stuff on the TV you see where kind of people are being interviewed and kids come running in the background.
My favourite. That's when I really love the news.
That's the fun moment, isn't it? Really. But I guess people would look and say that that there is an etiquette towards dealing with video calls and Zoom calls and things like that. When we're thinking about those video interviews, what sort of preparation do you think that people should be doing before they get into it?
So I think there is an element of there's an element, and something I've loved about working from home, this whole kind of everybody going into lockdown and having to adapt, is the human aspect, where actually a lot of people have been pushing. Sometimes you just can't help it. Sometimes your children really need to talk to you at that moment, and they will come in, and that's not your fault. That's not something you could change, and you have the responsibility as a parent in that way. You know what I mean? And I think because, one of the blessings of all of this is that we have started to see people as human, and you have, MDs or CEOs saying, bear with me 1 second, entire organization that I'm on Zoom to. Yes, darling.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's being almost unapologetic about the reality of that, because we're all starting to embrace, I think, and love each other more as being human and not just being this whatever in the office. And it's been a big thing to adapt to. I think there's stuff you could do. I have 2 cats, and there is every chance, as we did earlier today, that one just comes wandering in to say hello. Perhaps if I was, in terms of the preparation, I would probably try, if you can. I know if I close this door, all you're going to hear is. So I've left it open because chances are they're just going to be over there asleep like they are now. And if they say hello, then I'm human, I'm at home. That's just the reality of it. I think it's more, the preparation side is more the distraction piece. So, having a child pop in and ask a question, or having an animal do something for a second is fine. Having it kind of constantly, or having the TV on, or having somebody else in the room, something that can actually go from just being human to being inconsiderate.
Yeah,
I think that's where the line is. So in terms of prep for meeting, I think if you can have a blank wall behind you, then that's great. The rest of my flat is madness. This is the one corner I have that's not multicolored, painted, or covered in whatever rubbish, mainly. So just.
You've got one corner of your flat that's designed for Zoom calls now. That's it.
That's literally it. Yeah. I'm going to show you the rest of it. I don't know if you can see it. It's mayhem. Absolute mayhem. So I don't face that way. I face this way into my Zoom corner. But yeah, so prep wise, it would be absolutely that. So just basic stuff in terms of, the lighting and where you are, and just being considerate, making sure everything's quiet if you can, to as much as you can do. So it's the considerate side, rather than putting too much pressure on yourself to control all of the elements, which you cannot do. And when I say elements, I mean small beings, whether they're human or fluffy.
You make a really good point there as well, that within hospitality, we're on a regular basis, we're going to get interrupted. We're going to get distracted. We're going to have guests are going to pop up. You could be right in the middle of a conversation, kind of talking about something incredibly important, something life and death, and a guest could interrupt you midway through and ask you where can I get a fork? Where is the nearest sanitizer? Million different things. We've got to be able to take a second and respond to that rather than react, and actually just kind of, this is the information you need. Absolutely super duper. Deal with that and move along, and then come back to where we are. So we're in hospitality breeds multitasking machines fundamentally, and we're built to do this. So if I'm, as a recruiter, potentially, I'm looking at that and thinking, well, actually, you've just handled that beautifully. You haven't overreacted. So you've not gone.
Haven't got flustered.
Yeah, this is just it. Somebody needs to ask me a question. Well, I'm going to deal with that very quickly and efficiently. I'm going to move along, and then I go right back to having this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I didn't even think it in that way, actually. It does, for me, I'm just seeing it as a, hey, you're human and you're at home and that's going to happen, and we need to take that pressure off of ourselves to try and control everything. But actually, exactly like you say, that's only going to show that you're able to manage an unpredictable, disruptive situation without getting flustered.
Well, how many? So, how many different
Definitely.
applications have you been invited to meetings to in the last 3 months on? Because I think my record is now
Oh my
about
gosh.
applications.
Yeah, every time it's like a new thing, and I'm like, cool, yeah, let's do that. No,
I've
but
never,
yeah, so today I've had, just today, 3. So Teams, Zoom, and Google Hangouts.
and that is before 10 o'clock. That's not
And
bad
that
going.
is, yeah,
That's not bad going at all.
that is not, yeah. Maybe
One
that's
of the,
one of the preparation things actually that I forgot, because you don't even think about it, is just test the link first. Because you might click on it and it will say you have to download. Do you know what I mean? Because there are so many different ones, just make sure 10 minutes before, because then you can just really, really quickly download it and crack on. There's nothing worse than kind of assuming it's going to be online and going at 10 o'clock when you're meant to have that meeting, and then having to be like, sorry, I didn't bother to look before.
so all of that
Yeah.
preparation is kind of is the key element for me, because if you want to start a conversation nice and relaxed, then preparation to
Yeah.
enable that is absolutely the answer. And if we want to give the best version of yourself, which is always the
Yeah.
objective, well, actually kind of doing that as you've just downloaded something 30 seconds before the call's due to start, and you're watching thinking, please go, please go, please download faster.
Yeah.
It's
You're
quite
starting on the back foot, whether they know it or not. You're already a bit kind of, I know that especially working from home, like, there is no excuse anymore to be late. Not really. There's no traffic jams, there's no whatever if you're just sitting at home. So, that preparation is a lot less time. You might not have to drive an hour for that interview. You might not have to walk half an hour down the road, but like, that means you have less excuses, definitely, to being late. So just, even if it's just 15 minutes before, to make sure you're there. And the great thing about these, I did it with this one. I never want to be late, and I was still sorting a few bits out, but I just clicked on the link and it just says you're just sitting and waiting, and then when they join, that's when it starts, and that's cool. But at least I'm there and I'm ready, and I'm not just
exactly. So we've zoomed it, we've worked out the tech, and we've done our preparation. Let's think about some questions that people could ask you, and I'm going to throw a couple at you. Kind of, I've been in many an interview over the years, and at the end of the interview, when somebody says to me, "Do you have any questions?" I used to be horrendous at that. I would just be like, "No, you've answered everything neatly. You've given the information I require." But I know full well that recruiters just did not like that as a response from me. So do you have any kind of sort of hints and tips of what questions people could ask at that moment that would actually make them seem fun and interesting and engaging, rather than me going,
yeah.
"Oh, everything's fine. I've got all I need."
Yeah. So I think, I am asked this one a lot, and it's almost it's probably my biggest passion when it comes to, in interviews, what you need to prepare for and what you need to do. So the thing with that, you spend all of your time there. You are potentially, right, hang on, let me think about this, because I described it in a really good way the other day. You might be at that job for 5 years or whatever. So you're going to do that every single day. If someone said to you, you have to watch the same show every day, or the same film every day for the next 5 years, do you have any questions? Or do you want to know anything about it?
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't, like, you would just be like, nah, I don't mind, even though that could help you decide whether that's the show you want to watch for the next 5 years. You're gonna ask everything, so that you know for a fact that it's that show and not that other show that you're interviewing for that you're going to watch. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So why would you not, if you know that it's going to be a huge part of your life, you're going to ask as much as you possibly can to make sure it's right for you. And I think that's how I feel about it. So when they say, do you have any questions? Like, not everything is going to be covered. And you might not have, you know, the things that are covered in the interview are like the, you know, the role, maybe the duties or whatever. So for me, when that question comes up, I'm like, right, this is where I'm going to spend all my time. Yes, most of that is going to be doing those duties that they said. But actually, there is going to be a huge part of that that is me spending time with other human beings. So I want to know what they're like. Mm-hmm. That's one of the questions that I ask. And that's because my personal brand is the kind of the real human, personable. That's you know, that's what I want to be. I want to be part of something. I want to be part of a team that, and we spend, you know, all of our time together. So actually, if we have a rubbish day, or even if we just want to celebrate, like, does the team get on well enough? Do you love each other enough? Do you know each other well enough to just debrief? But, you know, some people wouldn't necessarily want that. And some teams are like, no, you know, some people want to go to work, get the job done and go home. And that's more than fine. Of course it is. That's a preference. My preference is to be part of something, be part of a group that actually want to hang out and do want to do that. So maybe if I had 2 jobs I was going for and one of them had a team that do actually really enjoy hanging out, and on a Friday they will go out and have a few bevs, I'm probably going to go for that one over, no, we will just get in, we do a great job, we get on really well, but then we just kind of leave it there. I think I have stressful days, or, you know, you can't predict customers and what they're going to do and how they're going to be with you, and there's always going to be times, and you spend so much time together, and because it's such a personable, interactive, you know, there's a certain type of person that to work in hospitality, and so they do tend to be a bit more social in that way. So it's because it's so important. I don't know, that teamwork is, I almost say it's more important in hospitality than anywhere else, apart from maybe like the military or something. To show that you're invested in that and to want to be a part of that is really important.
That's very cool. I like that. Well, I think we've nailed quite a lot of things, if I'm honest with you. We've gone through all of this stuff, and I've really enjoyed that conversation. It's been an absolute